Hey, Cheryl.
Good morning.
Oh, we are live. Whoa. Okay. All right. We're live on Facebook. So yeah, guys, welcome. Happy to have you. Avery will be here in a minute to steer this ship. But yeah, I'm Luke. I do the management, the teaching of the classes here at the short-term shop. And we've got an all-star cast from the Panhandle of Florida today. So that's really cool. And next week, we're going to do like an official market exploration and basically, talk about what it looks like to buy a property in the Panhandle of Florida. But let me go ahead and introduce these folks today, and then we'll turn it over to Avery here in a minute. But Rush, you went to high school with Avery. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah, we're pretty much all our lives growing up in the same school. So yeah.
Oh, you're talking grade school.
Oh yeah, everything.
Oh my goodness.
All of it.
I don't even want to know. I don't know why I haven't asked you stories, like to tell stories of Avery as a little kid, but that's very interesting. Yeah. And you've lived in the Destin 30A area for how long?
I've been in Santa Rosa Beach since 2014. So
okay, great.
On year 8 now.
Awesome. And Pete, you're a Yankee like myself, and you come from New Jersey.
New York, New Jersey, yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Pete Appizato. I grew up in New Jersey, lived in New York City most of my life. Been all over the place career-wise, but real estate for the last 5 years, Airbnbs for over 10 years. Talked to Avery and Luke, last year, October-ish, and said, I'm moving down there. I'm joining the team, right?
That's right. And you did. So thank you. We're glad to have you.
That's right.
And the beaches are a little nicer, right?
A lot nicer.
Yeah. Okay,
no comparison.
Good. Well, you're fitting right in. And Austin, you're in the top left corner of the state of Florida, and then tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, we're Lower Alabama over here. It's I was born and raised Pensacola, a little bit north of Pensacola. Not much of a beach goer. It's kind of like you take for granted, really. I'm more of a mountain person, but the beaches you can't find prettier beaches than around here. I've been doing real estate, I was a mortgage processor a little bit, and then I got my real estate license, and kind of the same way as Pete, and hooked up with Avery, and she was gracious enough to take me on the team, and loving every minute.
Awesome. Wonderful. Catherine, tell us about you.
Hi, I am born and raised here in Panama City. Had a great childhood, fishing, swimming, catching, everything. Just love selling real estate down here. It's awesome. It's the world's most beautiful beaches for sure.
Absolutely. At least North America or continental United States.
Yeah.
Best beach without an airplane. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And it is amazing. Spectacular. So, okay. And Cheryl, how about yourself? And you've got quite the real estate sales career as well. So don't be shy.
I was born and raised in the military. I've lived in 3 countries, 9 states, and 15 different cities. I moved to the Florida Panhandle the first time in 2008, lived here for a couple years, did title transactions, the backside of real estate. And then I moved back in 2017, got relicensed, and have been with the short-term shop a little over a year and a half, and not looking back for sure.
Wow. So did you end up here because of the military with your family, or was it
originally? Yeah. Originally the military brought to Eglin, Herbert Field. And that's when I fell in love with the beach and the water and the awesome weather. And in 2017, I was like, I need to go back. So that's what I did.
Awesome. Love that. Love it. And yeah, there's a big military presence here for those that don't know in the panhandle of Florida. And Jeff, what about you, brother? A little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Born and raised there. I moved down here probably 7 years ago, I guess. Did restaurant management for a long time, and I've been doing real estate now here with short-term shop for about a year. Right at a year now, and love it. It's been fun. It's been awesome learning from you guys. How you guys go about doing your short-term rentals, and it's been fun putting people in properties and seeing them succeed.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Where are we right now in the market? To me, I mean, I'm finally back shopping again. I own 3 in the Florida Panhandle, 3 rentals. One in Destin, one on 30A, which I was just there. I had to rush from there to here to get on the call with everybody, and then I have one in the Forgotten Coast, which is a little bit further down. I don't think we have anybody here that is representing sales in that market today per se, except for Catherine. You maybe venture down there, I would imagine. Yeah, I'm pretty spread out as far as where I own my properties. And I guess what my point was is that I'm back to shopping again, which is nice. It's crazy. You know, obviously the interest rates are on the first thing on everybody's mind in real estate right now. And especially today, which is Wednesday, July 27, we are expecting another rate hike of everybody's predicting 0.75 points, 3/4 of a point. So it is changing the market big time. You know, I'm back to shopping again, which is really cool. I spent all last weekend, Avery and I spent all last weekend driving around looking at product, as we call it. And as well, I got it from Grant Cardone, but it's getting exciting again. So what are you guys seeing as far as like a market standpoint when it comes to inventory versus days on market, especially as opposed to where we were maybe 18 months ago or even 6 months ago? Rush, I'll start with you.
Sorry. Yeah. So there was a time last year, it was just an absolute race that, if a property was listed last night, if we weren't on it first thing this morning, sending in offers for 5 or 6 people, we weren't going to have a chance. And even then it was kind of a shot in the dark if we'd actually get responded to or not. We're definitely seeing a whole lot more inventory, a lot more on market. A lot of sellers are still kind of swinging for the fence as far as pricing. But I think, it's pretty common now to see even a good price property still stay on the market for a few weeks to a month. So we got a little bit more flexibility. There's still a couple of unicorns out there that sell day of or close to it. But I'd say the mass majority are staying on market, giving us some time to think about it, some time to actually, decide, is this the right house? Is that the right house? Versus, oh my God, 4-bedroom under $1 million. Let's pull the trigger right now. It's more like, let's find the right one. So yeah, we've got a lot more flexibility than we had, but at the same time, the rentals are still up. Everything still makes sense. Even with the interest rates, I've still got a lot of clients that still see this as a buying opportunity and would rather go for it now with a little bit more time to think about it and make the best decision rather than just the decision to say yes or say no to the first thing that comes available.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I made it on.
Yeah, and Avery's here. So Avery, I'll of course introduce you as the end all be all of short term, and just turn it over to you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my laptop and I don't have my matching background on the laptop with you guys. So sorry about that. Had some logistical difficulties on the way home from ballet camp, where I was informed that Max's breakfast is not healthy for her. But regardless,
What?
we're talking about really, yeah.
How would they even know that?
I don't know. I guess Max told her. She's very like ballet, so she's super bougie. Anyway, so catch
we're
me
just
up
talking
where we
state
at.
of the market and the fact that it's been kind of exciting to actually have some stuff to look at and where we are as far as days on market and things. Just catching you up to speed. Anybody else have anything on that, Pete? Where are we out there?
Yeah, kind of exactly what Rush said. Things are sitting on the market a little bit longer. They are still selling. But you do have more of an opportunity to think about it a little bit more. Clients have the time to sort of run their numbers instead of having to race to get the offer in. The conversations I'm having with clients is, although rates are obviously moving up, there is some sort of room to negotiate a little bit right now. So that sort of offsets the increase in your interest rate payments. So it kind of almost works out a little bit. If you could negotiate 5 to 7% off the price of the property, it sort of justifies the increase in the interest rate payments.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that kind of nationwide, at least where my radar is anyway. I don't know about nationwide; it's a big country, but most of my markets where I'm looking and buying as a guy, I don't sell anything; I just buy. But a couple of my markets haven't gotten the memo yet. For the sellers, haven't gotten the memo that they, things are slowing down a little bit, and then a couple of them we're definitely seeing some price drops and some more inventory. So it's an interesting time. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but Avery, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think the worst mistake that any buyers can make right now, especially in this market, is thinking that they don't have a chance, like thinking about last year when everything was so competitive and they see a good deal hit the market and then they just assume that there's going to be so much competition that they won't offer, and they'll just say, oh, well, that's a great deal, that's going to have a lot of offers, I'm not going to offer on it, and psych themselves out of actually offering when they totally could have gotten the deal, because there might have only been one or two, or there might not have been any offers at all. So it's an entirely different market this year than last year, especially on the Emerald Coast. And so just guys, don't psych yourselves out of making offers, because you never know what you're going to be able to get nowadays. It is not 2021 anymore.
Well, guys, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and just show a map of this area, and we can kind of give like a broad overview of what is here and what it is and where we are, and kind of catch you up to speed on exactly what we're talking about here. So let me make this bigger.
To touch on that just real quick on what everybody was saying, I ran the hot sheet numbers for the last month, and there's only with it being, kind of a little bit of a slower buyer season right now, there's only 46 more properties that come on the market. As far as the hot sheet numbers go, 46 more properties that came on the market than left. So it's not a huge difference from what we've been seeing.
Yeah, it's just that it is a difference, which is the first time we've seen that in quite some time. So it almost is kind of like shocking in a way, but as Jeff said, it's really not that. It's definitely not drastic. It seems that whatever the Fed is doing is working. I guess is a good way to put that. All right, so I'll share my screen here, and Avery, I'll let you start here because I know you grew up coming in this area. You introduced me to this area. I'd never even heard of Destin ever until I met you, or Mississippi, which is where you're from. So I'll go ahead and share my screen just with a map here and let you guys chat about the areas. And just tell me if you want me to zoom in or move around or whatever you need.
Okay, so if you want to zoom in, so there are, I'll say, 4 main areas of the Emerald Coast. So we'll start at the far, well, that's not gonna work. Zoom back in. So we'll start at the far east. So there's Panama City Beach. Panama City Beach is a great place for condos. Lots of condo buildings there. All of them are very, very short-term rental friendly. I know a lot of people get worried about that. That's not really something you have to worry about in a market like this, about condo buildings not wanting short-term rentals, because basically all the condo buildings in this market were developed since, the 70s and 80s, specifically to be short-term rentals. Then the second, I would say, biggest city area is going to be Destin. And we'll get to 38 in a minute right between. So Destin still has a lot of condos, but has a lot of single families as well. Not quite as developed and popular as Panama City, but still very commercialized. So, there's lots of go-kart tracks and putt-putt galore. We love going to putt-putt in Panama City because they have a lot of really cool ones with the kids, but all kinds of activities like that, big kahunas, things like that, in addition to the beautiful beaches. And then right in between Panama City and Destin is Santa Rosa Beach is the exact name of it, but you guys will have heard of it as 30A. So it is the area. So that's Highway 98. Luke, if you'll go south and show 30A. So 30A is the little beach road that goes from 98 all the way down. I believe it's 14 miles long, all the way to Panama, between Miramar Beach and Panama City Beach. Miramar Beach is really similar to Destin, right next door. A lot of people, when they're driving through, don't even realize that they've crossed from Destin into Miramar Beach. But then 30A is kind of different. Not very many condos. There are a few condos, but it's mostly single families. It's not as commercialized. So 30A does not allow drive-throughs. It doesn't allow chain restaurants. So everything along this area that Luke is showing is going to be typically a local restaurant, local salon, everything's hyper local, and there are no drive-throughs. So you can't, just run to McDonald's and drive through for breakfast. There's not a lot of that super touristy stuff that you'll need to go to Panama City or Destin for. So just keep that in mind. And then a little further on the other side of Destin, on the west side, there's Fort Walton Beach, which is a lot of condos. You want to be on that Okaloosa Island area of Fort Walton Beach. If you're buying there, it is also mostly condos. Then if you scoot a little bit more to the west, there's Navarre Beach. Navarre's been on a lot of lists lately for best areas to invest in terms of beach houses. Although I do think 30A was #1 this year. I can't remember. I think it was maybe it was the AirDNA list. 30A was the #1 place to invest in beach houses, but Navarre was in the top 5. So Navarre is a little bit cheaper. I don't want to say any real estate on the Emerald Coast is what I would call cheap, or any real estate period in 2022 cheap. But so those are kind of the areas. So you've got Panama City to the far east, then you have 30A, Destin, and then Fort Walton and Navarre, and on over to Pensacola. Pensacola, again, you want to be on the beach, not in the city. And then we do go all the way over to Perdido, which is kind of right on the line of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama. So some people will kind of include Perdido in that Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area, even though it's technically Florida, but we're going to include it in the Emerald Coast just because it's the same state. So we're going to all, have that pretty streamlined.
And if anybody's interested in going even further west, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, we do operate in those areas. We're going to save that for another call. And we also go as far east as the Forgotten Coast, which is Port St. Joe and Mexico Beach and Cape San Blas. But again, we will save that for another call and focus on what we would technically call the quote unquote Emerald Coast today.
All right. And then I'll let our Emerald Coast agents answer some questions, or if you guys have anything you want to add, anything that you've been seeing lately out there in the trenches and the transactions, and what's working, what's not working, what's popular. Anybody have anything you want to throw in there?
I do want to reiterate the beaches. I don't think that's been stressed enough here. That's why people are coming here. That's what made me fall in love with it, even though Avery gave me no choice. The beaches that's not a good picture. The beaches are awesome here. They're every bit as good as, like the Caribbean. That's a pretty good representation of what our beaches look like. They call it the Emerald Coast because Avery, what is that story? The water's coming down from tributary of some sort.
So I read that somewhere, and I don't know exactly how much truth there is to it, but I read that all of the tributaries I don't know, the main river that comes down and empties out in Apalachicola, which is on the Forgotten Coast, but all the water coming down from like the Smoky Mountains and the Appalachians has some effect on the water here, that there's like a certain algae that makes it that like crystal green blue color. Rush may know better than me, but I've read that a few places. I don't know if that's official.
I've always heard that it's because the sand is so white that between the sun gleaming off of the sand through the water gives it that emerald color. But
that too.
That's just what I've heard. I have no idea.
There are many legends.
Which is true. The sand is like just bleach white in this entire section. It's very pretty. And Cheryl, you've been here a long time. If you'd like to add anything on your beloved area, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, the sand is called sugar sand because it is so white. It is so fine. It's not like a pebble sand that you'll see like on the Atlantic. So that draws a lot of people. Another selling point that people love to come to Destin for is the deep sea fishing. It's known as the luckiest fishing village in the world. So that's the major attraction. People come to Destin to go deep sea fishing, where Panama City has more of that city vibe, the shopping, the restaurants and stuff like that. But yeah, these are pictures of like the Destin Harbor and stuff. So
Yep, Destin Harbor is really cool. It's a great place to take your kids. There's all sorts of stuff going on, and restaurants and shops and things, and it's always
Pirate cruise, dolphin cruise, lots
Yes,
of like
we
fun
did the dolphin
activities.
it
Yes, to
was bumpy, but it was awesome. It's right there. I hope those are dolphins. Otherwise, I might get
Yeah, and Austin
Um,
actually has a fishing charter that he runs.
Yes, Austin's a fisherman, and I think Austin has a bit of a presentation if you want to take over on your specific area. And
Sure. I mean, I can, it doesn't matter. We can do that later, or
Yeah, go ahead.
no,
let's-
absolutely. I think go for it.
let's see. All right, you guys see everything?
Looks great.
Yeah, so Austin is over on the far west side of the Emerald Coast.
Yep, I cover from the Fort Walton Beach side, just west of Destin, to the Alabama state line, Perdido Key. And it's you know, it's, I always get asked which beach is best. You know, it's between I believe it's four. And it's almost like picking your favorite kid. You know, it's all good. It just really depends on what you're looking for. If it's a condo or single family home. This is kind of, well, we just kind of went over all this with Luke, but you know, most of it's going to be, I'd say 75% of your business will be drive-in. You know, we got an international airport in Pensacola that is accessible for people, but for the most part, it's nothing for us to drive up to the Smokies or, you know, Nashville, probably 8.5 hour drive or so. So, you know, if you imagine a circle around that, that's the kind of business you would be getting. We get a lot of people from Texas, Louisiana coming over. These are our attractions. The Blue Angels are actually native to Pensacola, so you can see how crowded the beach is. That's probably the most crowded the beaches get. It's absolutely insane. Avery was talking about the fishing charter thing. It's the Blue Angel weekend, fireworks, or 4th of July are the only 2 days that I would just not go out, because there's just so many people in boats that it was almost unsafe. Lots of fishing, like Cheryl said. The Floribama, that's a popular bar over in Perdido Key. It's right on the Alabama state line. They have their most popular events, probably the mullet toss, if it gets any more redneck than that. Lots of live music, war forts, plenty of things to do. But like Luke said, the number one reason people are coming is to go to the beach. One thing that I think separates us, let's see, get out of this real quick, from most of the other markets is the public beach access. That's what all these little stars are. For the most part, you want to be on the beach. Like Avery said, you know, walking distance is absolutely going to have better occupancy rates and cash flow than what something else is. That being said, Gulf Islands National Seashore, all of this right through here is nothing but beach and beach access, pavilions, you know, restrooms, things like that. So while we have the same amount of people, it seems less crowded to your guests because there's so many places for them to go. Navarre Beach, this fishing pier is the longest fishing pier in the Gulf of Mexico. I have sold properties in here, you know, just over the bridge. I normally tell people, if it's less than a 10-minute drive, then you can make money off of it. And the clients do great. But if you're walking distance to the beach, again, you're going to do way better than what you can in there. But on the same hand, a single family home in here is going to be 700,000-ish. Single families right in here are going to be 450-ish.
Hey, Austin, we can't see your cursor. I think you've like clicked out of the presentation. Do you want to click back in?
Can you see Google Maps?
No, I can only see, we can only see your PowerPoint.
Yeah, you're on your
Oh.
PowerPoint.
Okay, let's see here.
Got your cursor back.
You might unshare and then reshare. That might be easier.
Well,
That's all
I'm
right.
Zoom illiterate. I'm trying to figure out how to unshare it.
No worries, no worries. Just keep working on that. But I see you got flood zones here. Let's talk about that. Go to slide number 5 there.
Right. Okay.
Let's talk about that. Click on slide 5. There you go.
The flood zones, as you can see, it's a very thin island through here. So all of that's going to be flood zones. The insurance in Florida, honestly, it has sucked lately. I've been selling a lot more condos than single family homes recently, just because the insurance is way cheaper on the condos. That's just something to work into your numbers, just another number to plug in. But any area that you're going to buy in with me is going to be in a flood zone. And that's kind of what goes into the condos and single family homes. The condos, whenever you're paying that HOA, you're taking all of the fees that you would be paying elsewhere. A lot of people get scared away by the condo HOA, but instead of having to pay 10 different people to come maintenance your pool and this and that, you're paying one person, and it makes things a lot smoother. Whereas just for instance, I had someone get a quote on a condo the other day. It was a 3-bedroom right on the Gulf of Mexico, $850,000. I want to say their insurance was going to be about $1,200 a year. For a single family home similar to that, it would probably be dependent on a lot of factors, roof, age, and things, but I would say at least $8,000 or so.
All right, awesome.
Avery-
Well, let's move into some questions from the watchers, because we do have a hard stop at 12:50. I want to make sure we grab those. Did you have a question, Luke?
No. I did want to cover a couple more things on the flood zone thing. So, the further on down in Destin is very, for the most part, flood zone friendly. Yes, there's going to be some properties that, may require flood insurance, etc. But Destin itself, a little further on down the line than where Austin was showing, pretty cool on flood zones. And by the way, hit me up. I do have an engineering company that can change your flood zone if you're in a bad flood zone situation. Again, that would need to own the property first. So there's a big giant loophole on that situation. It's not something you're going to want to play around with before you close, but hit me up. I do have a company. I think they're, I don't know it off the top of my head. So yeah, I'll post it on Facebook if and when I remember it. But so there's there's AE, there's X, there's all sorts of different flood zones out there. So that is important if you're coming into a beach market to know your flood zone and what that means exactly, and what your flood insurance and wind coverage is going to look like as far as your insurance provider in your particular market. And of course, our agents are going to be able to help you with that stuff, and we deal with it on a daily basis for the most part. So just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, we don't see as many like AE floods, not most everything, but the vast majority of stuff over this direction on the Emerald Coast, mostly Destin, 38, Panama City Beach. You're not going to see as many like actual flood zones. You'll see more X flood zones, which means you're not required to carry that extra insurance. So make sure you know your flood zones when you start looking in these markets, and your agents will be able to help you with that. Kind of along the same lines, and Luke, you've been like knee deep in this recently. So Brian Douglas says, what are you seeing on the horizon for homeowners insurance in Florida?
Yeah, so this has been a hot topic, and especially exactly where we're talking about today, and well, the entire state of Florida. Because what happened was there was a big carrier called FedNat that was that had to drop 56,000 policies in the past 8 or 9 months. Most of that took place. Well, the end of it took place at the beginning of this year. It was about March. And just what I've learned from calling around and asking a lot of questions is at the beginning of the year, all the carriers have to turn in to the government how many policies they think they're going to take on for that year. And what happened is when FedNat basically got out of the Florida business, the other carriers had already turned in their numbers, and they weren't able to, or even allowed to, take on all those policies that FedNat had to drop. So it's been a big mess. It's been a huge mess, even for primary homeowners in Florida. Everybody on this call, I'm sure, is dealing with a terrible homeowners insurance situation. That being said, we are told that it's on the governor's desk now, and he's involved, and he's working to hopefully bring in some carriers that are not native to the area or used to the area, that are willing to try and figure out how to fix this problem, because insurance rates have doubled, sometimes even tripled in much of Florida in the past 6 or so months. So they're working on it, and I think worst case scenario, what'll happen is all these carriers, or hopefully they'll bring in some new ones, will be able to turn in their 2023 numbers at the end of this year, and the government will hopefully approve the excess amount of policies that need to make this thing get cleared up, basically, if the governor's not able to figure out a plan before that. But again, all this is just speculation, and myself doing a lot of research and calling around to a lot of agents and brokers in the insurance field. So it is an issue right now. The good news is that everybody knows about it, and everybody's working to resolve the issue.
All right, so next question. 3-bedroom townhome on the sand versus 2-bedroom town. John, I'm not entirely sure I understand your question, but he says 3-bedroom townhome on the sand, gross 120 to 140 versus 2-bedroom townhome on the sand, 100,000 gross ? So I think he's asking what a 3-bed or a 2-bed on the sand would gross.
I'd say, yeah, I don't know. I do own a 3-bedroom townhome pretty close to the sand, and I think you're right about that. John's awesome, by the way. John Wojcik, we like you. You're a good dude. But thank you for the question. Yeah, I think you're pretty close. 3-bed, it depends on where it is. And I mean, if you're on the sand, which I think would probably, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, there'd be a PCB situation there. But as far as my numbers, I've got a 3-bedroom in Santa Rosa Beach townhome, but it's a walk from the beach. Can't see the sand or the ocean. And I'm somewhere in that 110, 120, I would guess, without pulling it up. So I think you're pretty close to that. John, anybody else can you get a townhome, guys, on the sand anywhere other than Panama City Beach?
Yeah, there's a couple in Destin. I mean, there's specifically a few older buildings that do have, 2-bedroom townhomes, condos directly south of Scenic 98, right on the sand. In that kind of situation, I mean, that 2-bedroom is going to significantly outperform one that's, even north of Scenic 98, even though it feels like it's on the sand. I still feel like, if you've got young kids and things like that, if you can walk down the back stairs and be on the sand instead of having to cross a crosswalk in the streets, and you're going to have that infinite unobstructed view. I definitely think those have a little bit of room to kind of jump ahead of the rest of the 2-bedrooms and stand out.
Avery, he brings up a good point. Please talk to me it's just like I don't know anything about anything. Talk to me about, there is a major difference between 98 and Scenic 98, and how close do I need to be to the water, and how far do I need to be from regular old 98 to be successful?
Okay, yes. So regular 98 is the main highway that goes from basically all the way through the Emerald Coast. Scenic 98 is on like a beach road similar to 30A, so like a lot of beach houses and stuff on that road. You need to be south of Highway 8, basically across all of the little submarkets within the Emerald Coast, but you don't have to be south of Scenic 98. You just have to be south of the big highway. And in Destin, you're required to. You cannot short-term rent north of that. But as long as you are walkable to the beach or golf cartable in certain scenarios, and we can get to golf carts in a second, but as long as you're walkable to the beach, you're in good shape. What you don't want is for your guests to have to get in the car and drive to the beach, because public parking for the beach, the public beach accesses, is really difficult. So they're going to be circling the parking lot for a while. So you want to be walkable or golf cartable to the beach.
And that brings up the golf cart thing. I'll just briefly touch on that from a management perspective. I personally don't recommend having your own golf cart because it is illegal. These areas are golf cart legal, which is not normal. Unlike, I mean, you can drive it on the street. It has insurance. It has license plates. It's a motorized vehicle with 4 wheels that you can drive on the street. And personally, I don't like the idea of a drunk on a guest on vacation that may or may not be drunk driving a vehicle that has my license plates on it. So personally, I prefer to just give a rental place to guests that ask about that. But again, a lot of people do have their own golf cart and have success with that. I've got so many questions, I really do. But Avery, what about this condo HOA fee? Let's tackle that.
Okay, so a lot of people are really scared of condos because they've heard horror stories typically about condos in markets that are more primary home markets. Somebody tries to open up a short-term rental in one of those condo buildings and everybody hates them and tries to, the HOA gets them out of there. So condos in these markets can be a really good opportunity because a lot of investors who aren't educated on them will say, oh no, I don't want a condo, and automatically dismiss any sort of condo. Another reason that they can be a good opportunity is because a lot of investors don't know that just because they're not conventionally financeable doesn't mean they're not financeable at all. They will also avoid them. Like Luke and I actually made this mistake when we first started. So years ago, we went to buy a condo in Panama City Beach. I think we were looking, and then Destin, and we found that our conventional mortgage company that we've been using on everything else could not lend. We got halfway through and they said, oh, this condo is non-warrantable. We can't lend on it, which non-warrantable condos, all that means is that a higher percentage of investors own in that condo building than primary homeowners. And you cannot get conventional financing for a non-warrantable condo. So we were like, oh man, that sucks. I guess everybody that owns condos pays cash for them, because we were new. We didn't know there were other types of financing. So all you have to do is get a portfolio loan or a commercial loan. But again, that's another section of buyers that are not looking at condos because they think they can't get financing for them. And then also, a lot of people get really scared of HOA fees and like condo fees and condo assessments. So condo fees, a lot of times people will say, oh, $500 a month condo fee, that cuts into my profit too much. I'm not going to do that. Let's look at something else. But if you take a closer look, a lot of times the condo fees cover a lot of things that you would have had to pay anyway, and utilities, like a lot of them will cover cable and internet, or sometimes they'll cover everything but electric. They cover exterior maintenance, they cover pool maintenance. And these are things that if you had a comparable single family that had a pool, that you'd have to be paying for. So you just kind of have to go through line item by line item and see what they cover, because a lot of times it's not just a nebulous extra 500 on top of everything else that you're having to pay. People also get really scared of condo assessments. So guys, every few years, for those of you who don't know, condos drop assessments, which are basically like, okay, the condo building needs a new roof, so we have to charge every owner this much in an assessment in order to get this new roof. That's not something to necessarily be scared of either, because when you think about it, a condo assessment is really just like the equivalent of CapEx on a single family or maintenance. You're going to have to replace your own roof at some point, or you're going to have to do X amount of maintenance over the course of several years. Whereas with a condo assessment, you're just doing it all at once at one time instead of a little bit over several years. So it's not anything to be really worried about. But again, you want to just make sure that you know what's coming up when you're buying a property. Like, have they had any assessments recently? Do they have any coming up? And you can work that into your contract, that the seller pays it or that the buyer pays it, or however you want to divide that up. But you can work that into the contract in the Florida contracts.
All that to be said, a condo, a single family versus single family home, like one's not necessarily better than the other, right? We really just want to kind of decide what's better for our personal, for our family and things. And if you're gonna be a condo person, get knee deep in, figure out the differences, the nuances is what I would recommend.
Okay, next question. We're vacillating between Pensacola / Navarre and then Panama City Beach. We want to get a beachfront condo in either. We love Navarre, but we're worried there won't be enough attractions to draw people. What do you think, Austin?
Vacillating.
Right.
Great word.
I'm like, do I need to go back to school?
You know, the beach is going to be the #1 reason people are coming here. As far as attractions, honestly, you're right. There's not a ton of other things. We're a big military town. Like Luke said earlier, we got one of the biggest Navy bases around in Pensacola that draws people in, the Blue Angels. You know, when people are graduating from the Navy base, that brings family down. And of course, everybody's going to want to come to the beach when they do come. But as far as anything aside from like mini golf, a couple golf cart tracks, there's not a lot of, I call them tourist traps, but you know, little things like that. There's not a lot of them. But as far as beaches go, then I think we've gotten beat by a little bit over there. Of course, I'm going to be biased. Definitely do your research, but that's my take.
I totally agree with that. A lot of people are coming to the beach because they want to be at the beach and they're not looking for a lot of crazy extra things to do. Although there's plenty to do around Navarre, like you would be totally fine. But I would say look in Navarre and Panama City and buy wherever the best deal pops up.
Beach, by the way, Avery covered that. Sorry, you just mentioned Panama City. If you want to touch on that.
Panama City Beach. So Panama City and Panama City Beach are actually two different cities technically. So Panama City Beach is what you want to stick to. You don't want to get up in Panama City too far from the beach, to entirely different city. You want to stay in Panama City Beach. Okay, Michael Breelove, do you recommend specific marketing to snowbirds in the Destin area? If so, what are some tips for doing that during the off season? Luke?
Yes, snowbirds. So I don't think that necessarily, Michael, love you too, by the way. Thanks for the question. He's a great dude. And I don't think that necessarily matters too much on where you're at in these areas. I think you're going to be snowbird friendly based on the size of your property. And mostly because in my experience, snowbirds tend to want things to be inexpensive. And a $1.2 million 4-bedroom or whatever. I shouldn't have thrown numbers out there because you just never know. But a nice expensive house is probably not going to be cost effective to rent to a snowbird, because they're, snowbirds are going to be in that like $1,500 to maybe $2,000, $3,000 a month range. And when you're talking about a house that's large and fancy, a lot of times it's just kind of not worth it. So if you've got a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom condo or townhome or even a small single family, then yes, absolutely go for the snowbirds, because I guess we should bring this conversation into seasonality, but let me wrap up the snowbird thing. It is a great way to get somebody in your house for 3, maybe even 4 months. Snowbirds are generally, they like to come in after Christmas, have Christmas with their family back home. And then they usually stay until March, or possibly the 1st of April, somewhere in that area. And you do want to get a lease signed, by the way. Anybody that's staying more than, depending on what state you're in, more than 28 days-ish, they have tenant rights. So you definitely want to have a lease in place if you're going to snowbird. And yeah, so it's a great idea if you've got a very small property. Avery, if you want to cover seasonality when it comes to this market, that's probably a good point to do that.
Yes. So I see a lot of people in online forums and Facebook groups and things, not just about this market, but this is one of the markets that they'll say, oh, I really want to buy something there, but it's seasonal, so I don't want to buy there. So occupancy rate or seasonality is not something to be scared of necessarily. It's not the most important metric that you want to pay attention to. Income is the most important metric. And so Luke and I own a 4-bedroom cabin in the Smokies and also a 4-bedroom beach house in Destin, a few blocks off the beach. We bought those in the same year, paid roughly the same amount for each. And the Smokies house has an 80% occupancy rate and the Destin house has like a 66% occupancy rate. So a lot of people would be like, oh man, I'm not going to mess with Destin, it's seasonal. But actually over the past 3 years, the Destin house has made about $60,000 more a year than the Smokies house. So just that's something to keep in mind. And everyone's goals are going to be different. Maybe you don't want to have an off season, and so that's fine. But if you're only looking at the numbers, you don't want to get too caught up occupancy rate only without looking at the income, because that property makes $60,000 more than our comparable mountain house, and it just does it all between March and the end of October. So Luke, who manages our properties, he enjoys that because he gets a little break from guest questions and maintenance things and stuff like that for the off season. And then also, if you're someone to be able to use it, and do that without cutting into your income. In a Smokies house, like, we're off our property for any amount of time that we want to come in because it's just booked, almost year round. So something to consider, that occupancy rate is not everything.
Yeah, nailed it. I do like the break in the winter. I think it's a good thing. It is a little stressful when you're first starting to think that you got to carry this thing for 3 or 4 months, but over the course of several years of owning the property, I do look forward to those winters. And just to completely clarify, at this point, that Destin house is a little nicer. We've done more rehab. So I think apples to apples, you're looking probably pretty much same purchase price to gross, give or take, from Smokies to Destin, Panama City area. It's just that you don't have to work as many months. So if that helps anybody in their analysis, I dig it. But I get it. It is a little stressful when you're first going into it.
Okay, do we have any more questions? We got the condo question, snowbirds.
I do have another one. Let's talk regulation, if you don't mind. These areas are all super hip when it comes to regulation. Destin is, I got to be real careful what I say here, because I have a home in Destin that I absolutely love. And I love the city of Destin. I'm going to kiss their rear end right on this call just in case. But Destin can be a bit tricky. Let me put it this way. Let's use the word time-consuming words when it comes to getting your licenses and permits and your ducks in a row. They absolutely do want us to be there, and they do want us to be renting our properties. They just want to make sure that we're playing ball. Destin is very proud of Destin, and they should be. So be advised, if you're going into Destin, it could be about 4 to 5, maybe even 6 weeks before you get all your permits and licenses where they need to be. That doesn't mean you're going to lose 4 or 5 weeks of rental when you first start. It's good to start that process as early as possible, maybe even before closing. Walton County, which is one over.
30A is Walton County.
30A, by the way, Destin's Okaloosa. So Walton County, which is where you're going to get your permits, et cetera, for 30A. Super easy and not a big deal. They do have a local tax that Airbnb and Vrbo do not take care of, that you'll need to pay yourself, but you can charge that back to your guests. And Panama City Beach is also very, very, there's a reason we're in these markets. They are all very regulation friendly. If, just make sure you're paying your taxes and playing ball, and make sure that you love your community and you're doing the right thing, and you're not renting to a bunch of riffraff. And these are 100% vacation rental friendly markets.
And also, I do want to point out Walton County. So if you guys are looking at buying in Miramar Beach or 30A, Walton County has been looking at changing their regulations to mirror what Okaloosa County is, which is a good thing, because right now in Walton County, nobody knows who to call if anything goes sideways, and it's just a little messy with parking and things like that. So they're working on getting, actually having some rules in place for short-term rentals here. So they're really just looking at making it exactly the way Okaloosa County is. So you guys might see some news and things going on, and people commenting in Facebook groups about regulations changing in Walton County. It's not a bad regulation change. It's not an anti-short-term rental change. It's a let's have some organization with the current short-term rentals and future short-term rentals in this market. So it'll just really be more like how it is in Destin, which is still super friendly. There's just a few rules that you have to follow, which is a good thing.
Avery, if you want, I could share my screen one more time quickly and show my blue Destin house and show off a little bit if you want, but otherwise we can.
You can. I do have to jump off to start the masterclass, but you certainly can.
Just to give folks an idea, of what it would look like to this is a Destin proper. I do have a Santa Rosa Beach house as well, but let me just show real quick just to show what we're getting into here. This is a house that I've had for several years, and it was a rehab over time. This is my Airbnb listing, obviously, and this is it's a 4.5. It's a 4.5. Rush did sell this to me, and Avery, of course, and it's about 3 blocks from the beach, about 2.5 blocks from the beach. It does have a private pool. Private heated pool. It's a rather large house for a 4-bedroom at 3,000 square feet. And it was a piece of junk when I bought it, and it is in very great shape now, which is not normal, by the way. It's not easy to find rehab situations in most of these markets. I'll let Avery tackle that if she wants to. But this, just so you guys know, this house grossed last year. I grossed right at $165,000. Just self-managing on Airbnb and Vrbo, and I'd be happy to teach anybody else exactly how I did that. What was that? Was that topic I just brought up, Avery? I already forgot.
I don't know, but we do have a good question in the chat.
Oh, cool.
Heather says recommendations on more or less favorable times of year to purchase. So I would say keep an eye all year and buy when the deal pops up, because sellers typically in this market will have one of two frames of mind. One, they're going to wait until the fall to sell after they've made all their summer money, which is, a lot of people assume that's the best time to buy. But some sellers will say, well, I'm going to list my property like right in the middle of June during the high season. So that way, when anybody doesn't want to, I'm not going to take that because I'm making all this money the rest of the year. So if you want to buy this now, you can give me my price. So those are typically the two mindsets. I think we're going into an interesting time right now, in about to be third quarter of 2022, where we may see some more supply come on the market. It can be a really, really great time to get under contract, because a lot of investors, or at least a certain sect of them, don't want to buy, they don't want to close in September because they have to carry it for a few months when it's not going to be really rented very much. So you can, if you're somebody who has those reserves in place, it can be a good opportunity for you, because there might be a little bit less competition, because a lot of people don't want to just, have to pay those utilities throughout the winter and wait for the bookings to come in February. So right now, like if you start looking right now at the end of July, you're probably closing mid-August. Like it's getting to be a really good time to buy here. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. If you guys have any questions, need anything, want to work with one of our wonderful Emerald Coast agents, email us at agents@theshorttermshop.com, and we will see you guys later. Thanks so much.